Hello guys, welcome back again. I am back and I'm here in my office again with a new video and a new tutorial. I've been receiving a lot of emails from you guys that you wanted to have a tutorial about Artix Linux. It was already on my plan, but since I had so many requests, I decided to bump it up the line, and this is what we are going to do in this tutorial. So in this tutorial we are going to install Artix Linux with the OpenRC initialization system. Now, what is Artix Linux? Artix Linux is basically Arch Linux without systemd. For those of you who don't know what systemd or OpenRC is, it's an initialization system for Linux. Now, I don't want to go into much details and into much discussions about the init systems in Linux. We have several of these, and systemd is of course a very popular one, and this is actually what Arch Linux is using. OpenRC is another init system which is actually used by Gen 2. It is a little bit more modular and it's more portable than systemd. Now, systemd is widely used in many distributions, and there are several people who don't actually like it because it's not really according to the Linux philosophy of modularity and portability, which OpenRC is. But definitely OpenRC opens a window into an alternative to systemd. It's very light and it's also very modular. So let's get going in this tutorial. We are going to install Artix Linux with OpenRC. So before we start the installation, we need to download the ISO, and let's have a look first at the Artix Linux website. Let me pull the window over here. And this is the website artix-linux.org. And as you can see here, it says the art of Linux, simple, fast, and systemd free. So what it means basically is that Artix Linux is based on Arch Linux, as it says down here, but it uses OpenRC, runit, or S6 as the initialization system, which, as you might know, is the PID1 in the system. The PID1 is the first process that runs in Linux once you boot the machine. Now, as I said in the intro, I don't want to go here into philosophical differences between systemd, OpenRC, runit, and S6, but Artix Linux offers you the opportunity to install Arch Linux without systemd using one of these three initialization systems, OpenRC, runit, and S6, which are, as we saw before in the intro, a little bit more in line with the Linux philosophy of portability and modularity. Anyway, let's get going. What we need to do now, we need to go up here and click on download. And let's scroll down here. So we have basically in Artix Linux several possibilities. Now in this tutorial, I'm going to install it using OpenRC. So that means I'm going to download this ISO here with the OpenRC in it. And you can also choose to download Artix Linux already built for you with these desktop environments. Now we want to build this, of course, from scratch. So I'm going to download the ISO. And I'm going to install actually Artix Linux here on my laptop because I want to show you also how you can set up your Wi-Fi card. So I'll download the ISO, boot up my laptop from there, and I'll meet you back in the login prompt. So I already logged in here into my machine. What I did, I booted up my laptop, I installed SSH and activated so that I can log in through my terminal here. And as you've seen on the login prompt, you can enter the installation with Artix as a username and Artix as password. Now, the first thing I'm going to do here that I'm logged in, I'm going to switch to the sudo user to install the system. So to do that, I'm going to type in sudo su and hit enter. And I'm going to go back to the root directory by typing in cd and hit enter. And let's clean up the terminal. Now, if I type in IP space A, you can see here I have an IP on my Ethernet connection ending with 117. So Ethernet should be automatically set up in Artix. You shouldn't be worrying about that. If you have Wi-Fi, however, things get a little bit more complex and we need to set up the wireless connection. Now, if I want to use Wi-Fi, the first thing I need to do is to activate the Wi-Fi adapter. So to do this, I can type in IP link set, and then the adapter name, in my case, is WLAN 0, as you can see there on the interface number 3, and then up, and hit enter. Now, you can see in my case, this is not possible because the Wi-Fi adapter is blocked. So we need to unblock this first. And to do this, we're going to use the rfkill command. So let's type in rfkill, and then unblock, and then Wi-Fi, and hit enter. There you go. Now, if we pull up again the last two commands, so IP link set VLAN 0 up and hit enter, you can see it works fine. So the interface is now up and active, but is not connected yet to the internet. So let me clean up the terminal. The Artix ISO comes with conman installed, and in order to use it, we need to go into the conman-ctl command. So let's type in conman-ctl and hit enter. Now we need to perform some steps here to connect to our Wi-Fi. First, we need to type in scan and then Wi-Fi and hit enter. It's going to take a second to scan the networks. There you go, scan completed. Now we can list the networks by typing in his services and hit enter. And you can see here I have a list of networks. This is the one actually I want to connect my Wi-Fi to, although I have already an Ethernet cable connected, so I actually don't need to do this. But I want to show you how it's done in case you don't have an Ethernet cable and you need to connect via Wi-Fi. So next we need to register the agent to handle user requests. So to do this we can type in agent on and hit enter. And now we can tell conman to connect to our wireless network. So I know the name here looks a little bit daunting to type in, but don't worry, we can use autocomplete to do this. So to connect to the Wi-Fi, we can type in connect, and then we type in Wi-Fi, and then underscore, and then with the tab key to autocomplete the first part, as you can see, and then I'll put in just the first three numbers, so 656, and hit tab again, and then I can hit enter. Now I'm asked to enter my passphrase, so I can enter it here, and hit enter. And as you can see now, it's connected to the Wi-Fi. So we can exit here from this prompt by typing in quit and hit enter. Let's clean up the terminal and type in again IP space A. And as you can see now, I have also an IP on my Wi-Fi ending with 119. So I will not use this, of course, because Ethernet is faster. And I just wanted to show you how you can connect with Wi-Fi if you don't have an Ethernet cable. So let's clean up the terminal. Now, this is a UEFI system, and I want to create in this system here two partitions. I want to create a EFI partition, that's mandatory, and of course I want to create also a root partition, which is also mandatory. So to do this, we can use two tools here on the Artix ISO. One is fdisk, and the other one is cfdisk. If you want to use other tools like gdisk, for example, you'll need to download them from the repositories. And before doing that, we can type in pacman-syy to refresh the servers one time. It's going to take a second to do that. There you go. And if you want to install, for example, gdisk, you can pull up the last command here and replace the YY with a gdisk, for example, and hit enter. And you'll be installing it, and you can use it if you like to use gdisk. Now let me clean up this command and clean up the terminal. And let's type in lsblk. So as you can see here, I have one drive called NVMe 0 and 1, which is around 500 gigabytes. I have already two partitions in here, and that's because I have already system installed. So what I need to do, I need to delete them first and then recreate the new partitions I want. You probably don't need to do this if you're installing for the first time or you're installing in a VM, but you can follow along, and I'll be recreating these two partitions to show you how it's done. So the first thing I need to do, I will type in cfdisk/dev/nvme 0 and 1 and hit enter. And I'm going to go here to delete and hit enter. I'll move down to the other partition, and again I go to delete. And then I'm going to go to write and hit enter. Confirm by typing in yes and hit enter. So there you go, the partition table has been deleted, and now we can create a new one. So if you're using cfdisk, you can use the same command I used before, cfdisk/dev/nvme 0 and 1, or replace the name of your disk, of course, and then we can go to new to create a new partition. So let's hit enter here. And this is going to be the EFI partition for me. So I want the EFI partition to be 200 megabytes. So I'll replace this with 200 capital M and hit enter. Now I need to make this as a EFI partition, so I'll go to type and hit enter. And you can see it's the first one on the list, so I'm going to go up here and select it and hit enter. There you go. Now I'll move down to the free space and hit new again. And for this partition size, I'm going to select the default because I want this partition to take the remainder of the disk, so I can just hit enter here. And for the type, it's already a Linux file system, which is fine for me. So what we need to do now, we go to write and hit enter. And I'm sure yes, and hit enter. And that's done, so we can go to quit and hit enter. Let's clean up the terminal and type in again lsblk. We'll have again the same partitions there. So now we created the partitions and we need to format them. So let's begin with the first partition, which is our EFI partition, and it needs to be formatted with the FAT file system. So we can type in mkfs.fat dash capital F32 and then slash dev slash NVMe 0 and 1P1 and hit enter. Now we repeat the same process for the second partition using another file system, of course. So we can type in mkefs dot, in my case, I'm going to use ext4 as a file system type. So I'll type in ext4 and then the partition name, which is slash dev slash NVMe 0 and 1P2 and hit enter. Now, because I had already a file system in there, I'm asked if I want to replace it, and I'll say yes and hit enter. And now this is done. In your case, you might have not seen that if you're installing this for the first time. So let's clean up the terminal, and now that we formatted the partitions, we can mount them. Let's begin with our root partition. So we can type in mount slash dev slash NVMe 0 and 1P2, and the mount point is slash mount because it's our installation directory. And then we can hit enter. Now we need to mount also the EFI partition into our boot directory, which is not existing yet. So we need to create that first by typing in mkdir. And I'm going to select here -p because I want to create two directory. And then slash mount, which is already existing. And then slash boot, which is the first directory I create, and also slash EFI. Now you don't need to do this. You can just also create only one directory, the boot directory, and mount the EFI partition in there. But in my case, I want to go with the EFI directory, and then I can hit enter. Now we can mount the first partition in here by typing in mount and then slash dev slash NVMe 0 and 1P1. This is the name of our first partition. And we mount this under slash mount slash boot slash EFI and hit enter. And there you go. Let's clean up the terminal and type lsblk. And we can see our mount points in here. So the first partition on EFI and the second partition on the mount directory. So everything looks good here. We can proceed by installing the base system. So on Artix, this is done with this command, base trap, then slash mount, which is our installation directory. And the packages we can install are base. We can install also base-devel, and also OpenRC, because this is the initialization system we want to use in this tutorial. I'm going to install also the Linux kernel and also Linux-firmware, an editor, in my case Vim. And my laptop has an Intel processor, so I want to install also Intel-ucode. If you have an AMD processor, you can install AMD-ucode. And then I'm just going to hit enter. So this is going to take a moment to download and install, and I'll be back when it's done. So the packages are installed. Let's clean up the terminal. Now the next logical step is to create a file system table, and in Artix we can use this command, fstab-gen, and then -U, again using the UUIDs of the partitions, and then slash mount. And we're going to append this information to slash mount slash etc slash fstab and hit enter. Now let's have a look at the fstab file quickly. Let's type in cat slash mount slash etc slash fstab and hit enter. And as you can see here, we have our two partitions. We have our root partition here with the UUID, mount point, file system type, and options, and the same goes for the EFI partition. So everything looks good. We can clean up the terminal, and now it's time to enter the installation and leave the ISO with this command, artix-chroot, and then slash mount, and hit enter. You can see also the login prompt change, so we are now in the installation and not anymore in the ISO installer. Now, the first thing I want to do here, I want to create my swap file because I didn't create any swap partition. So to do this, I will type in dd and then if equals /dev /0 of equal /swap file and then bs equal 1g. I'll explain you this in a second. And then count equal 2 and then status equal progress. So what we are doing here, we are creating a swap file of 2 GB. So the base count from the file is 1 GB, the count is 2. So we are basically creating a 2 GB swap file. And then we can hit enter. There you go. Now we need to change the permissions of the swap file. So we can type in chmod 600 /swap file and hit enter. Now we can make the swap by typing in mkswap /swap file and hit enter. And we can activate the swap by typing in swap on /swap file and hit enter. Now we need to put also the swap file in the fstab file. So let's type in vim /etc /fstab and hit enter. Go down here to the empty space and let's type in /swap file. The mount point is none. The file system type is swap. The options are defaults. And the file system checks are 0 and 0. Then we can save and exit the file. And this is done. So let's clean up the terminal. Now, the next step is to work on our localization. So this is very similar to the Arch Linux installation process. So to do this, I'm going to type in ln-sf/user/share/zone-info/ in my case, Europe, this is my zone, /Zurich, the city closest to me. You replace this, of course, accordingly. And we're going to link this to /etc/local time. And hit enter. Now we can synchronize the hardware clock to the system clock, so we can type in hwclock /sys2hc and hit enter. There you go. Now we can work on our localization stuff, so let's type in vim/etc/locale.gen and hit enter. Again, we are looking for our locales here. I'm looking for English US, which is down here. And we choose the one which has the UTF-8 there, which is right here. And we need to delete the hashtag. There you go. And we can save the file and exit. And now we can generate the locales by typing in locale-gen and hit enter. Now we need to put these locales also into the locale.conf file. So let's type in vim/etc/locale.conf and hit enter. And here we're going to type in lang, all capital letters, and then equal, and then our string. So en_us.utf-8. And then we can save the file and exit vim. Clean up the terminal and work now on our hostname. So let's type in vim/etc/hostname and hit enter. I'll call this machine Artix. And we can save the file and exit. And I want to work also on the host file. So let's type in vim/etc/host and hit enter. Go down here to the empty space and type in the IPv4 address 127.0.0.1 and then localhost. Next line, ::1, our IPv6 address, and then localhost again. And in the last line, 127.0.1.1, and then Artix, our hostname, .local domain, and then a tab again, and then our hostname, so Artix. And then we can save the file and exit vim. And now we can give a password to the root user. So let's type in passwd and hit enter. Choose the new password and retype it. There you go. Now let's clean up the terminal and install some extra packages we need. So we can type in pacman-s. The first one is grub, our bootloader. And because it's an EFI system, I want to install also EFI boot mgr. I'm going to install also network manager. This is my preference. You can install also another tool if you like to. I need to install also network manager-openrc. And I'm going to install also network-manager-applet. We can install also wpa_supplicant. And we can install also dialog. Eventually OS prober, if you want a dual boot one day. We can install also DOS FS tools and Linux-headers. I'm going to install also blues and blues-openrc and also blues-utils. I want to install also cups and also cups-openrc. And this is it for me now, so we can just hit enter. And I'll accept the defaults here to start the install and hit enter to proceed with the installation. Again, it's going to take a moment here to download and install, and I'll be back when it's done. So the packages are installed. Let's clean up the terminal. And we can install grub now, our bootloader. So we can type in grub-install and then --target equal x86_64-EFI and then --EFI-directory equal, you remember the boot directory I specified was /boot/EFI in my case, and then --bootloader-id equal grub. And then we can hit enter. It's going to take a second to install. There you go. Now we can generate the configuration file by typing in grub-mkconfig-o, so the output goes under /boot/grub/grub.cfg and hit enter. And there you go. This was fairly quick, so we can clean up the terminal. Now, the next step in an Arch Linux installation would be to enable the services we need. For example, our network manager, the Bluetooth services, and the CUPS printing service. Now, we are using here OpenRC, and it works a little differently than systemd. So to activate basically those services, we need to use some other commands. I'm going to put a link in the video description below on a table on the Arch Wiki explaining you the corresponding commands of systemd to OpenRC so that if you need to look them up, it's easy as a click. So the first thing what I need to do here is to enable basically Network Manager so that when the machine boots up, I have my internet connection up and working. To do this, we can use this command rc-update add and then Network Manager. And we want to add this to the default run level and then hit enter. Now we want to do the same also for the Bluetooth service and for the printing service. So let me pull up here the last command with the up arrow and replace Network Manager with Bluetooth D, and the rest stays as it is, and then we can hit enter. Now I'm going to do the same for the printing system, so I'll pull up the last command and replace Bluetooth D with cupsd and hit enter. And there you go. So we can clean up the terminal and proceed also now by creating a user for the system. So to do this, we're going to type in user add -m capital G and then wheel and the username. So in my case, my name, and hit enter. So we are creating here a user with my name with a home directory, that's the M switch, and the capital G is specifying the supplementary group, which is the wheel group. This we will configure it in a second for the sudo privileges. But before, let's give a password to this user. So we can type in passwd and then the username and hit enter. Type in the new password and retype it. There you go. Now we can give this user sudo privileges by typing in editor equal vim and then sudo and hit enter. We scroll down the file here with Control F until we find the wheel group we talked about before. We need to be careful, there are two of these, and we need the first one here, which has the line all equal all, and we need to delete the hashtag, and then we can save the file and exit vim. Now this is done basically, but I need to do still one thing because when I reboot the machine, I want to be able to log in again via SSH so that I can show you the next steps. So to do this, I'm just going to install the SSH package and activate it. For you guys, this is optional, but if you want to do it, this is how it's done. So we can type in pacman-s and then open SSH, and I'm going to install also OpenSSH-openrc. I need those two packages, and then I can hit enter. Proceed with the installation. And there you go. Now let's clean up the terminal, and I need to enable this system by typing in rc-update add and then sshd, this is the name of the service, and I'm going to add it to the default run level, so I'll type in default and then hit enter. And there you go. So the next time the machine boots, sshd will be available. Now we need to exit the installation and return to the ISO installer by typing in exit. And we can unmount all the partitions by typing in umount -R and then /mount and hit enter. Now it says target is busy because I'm logged in via SSH. It doesn't matter here, we can now type in reboot, and if everything went well, we will be greeted by the grub bootloader. Now I cannot show you this because I'm connected via SSH to the laptop, but if you see grub, just hit the first option Artix Linux, and I'll meet you back at the login prompt in a second. Now we booted up the machine, we need to check if we have an internet connection. So let's type in IP space A. And I can see here I have an Ethernet connection because I have a cable connected to my laptop, which ends with 117. However, my Wi-Fi card is there, but is not active. Now, if you don't have a cable and you want to use Wi-Fi, what you can type in now, because we installed Network Manager, is sudo nmtui and hit enter. Enter our sudo password. Now go down to activate a connection. Here you see the list of networks. So I can select mine, for example, and hit enter. Enter the password. And hit enter. It's going to take a second to connect. And there you go. Now I have two connections, but I just wanted to show you how it's done. So I can hit back here and go out of the manager and clean up the terminal. Now if I type in IP space A, you can see I have an IP also on my Wi-Fi card here ending with 119. So everything looks good and we can clean up the terminal. So what we can do now is to install the rest of the system. In this tutorial, I'm going to install XFCE. And before doing that, I'm going to refresh the servers one time. So I can type in sudo pacman-syy and hit enter. It's going to take a second to do that. There you go. And let's clean up the terminal and I'll type in sudo pacman-s. So the first package is the display server, which is xorg. Now, following the Artix wiki, we need to actually ignore one package in the xorg group because of some undergoing cleanups. So to do this, we can type in --ignore, and the package is xorg-server-xdmx. And then we can install also our graphics drivers. In my case, I have an Intel card in my computer. So I'll type in xf86-video-intel. If you have an AMD card, you can replace Intel here with AMD GPU. And if you have an NVIDIA card, you can install NVIDIA and NVIDIA-utils. Those are the two main packages. Now I have an Intel card, so I replace this with the Intel. And now for the display manager, I need three components. The first one is displaymanager-openrc. And the display manager itself is lightdm. And I want to install also the greeter. So lightdm-gtk-greeter. And then we can install also XFCE4 and also XFCE4-guris. And then we are good to go and we can hit enter here. Accept the defaults and also here. One more time. We'll also accept the defaults here and also here. And now we can proceed the installation by hitting enter. Again, it's going to take a second here to download and install, and I'll be back when it's done. So the packages are now installed. Let me clean up the terminal. And what we need to do, we need to also enable, as we do in Arch Linux. Remember, this is OpenRC, so the procedure will be a little different. We need to enable the display manager. So to do this, we can type in sudo rc-update and then add xdm and then default and hit enter. Now we need to edit the XDM file. So to do this, we can type in sudo vim/etc/conf.d/xdm and hit enter. And we need to go down here at the end of the file where it says display manager and change this XDM to lightdm. This is the display manager we chose. And then we can save the file and exit Vim. Now the installation is basically done. What we can do now, we can type in reboot. And if everything went well, we will be greeted by lightdm and put in your password, and we'll meet back in the XFCE desktop in a second. So I'm here now in XFCE. The installation was successful. Now the only thing I needed actually to add, which was missing, was the Pulse Audio and the ALSA utilities for our audio system, which were not installed. To do that, I went to the terminal, and let me increase the font size, and I did sudo pacman-s. One is Pulse Audio, and the other one was ALSA-utils. When you install these packages, then you will be able to have your volume here, and you can select also microphones if you have them available to you. So this is basically done, and this is it for the installation of Artix Linux with OpenRC. So this is it for the basic install of Artix Linux with OpenRC. Again, as I said before in the video, this is an alternative init system for Linux. Arch Linux again officially supports only systemd, but if you don't like systemd and you want to have an alternative init system, I definitely recommend you to try Artix Linux with OpenRC and let me know what you think about it. Again, thank you so much for watching the video, guys. I hope you liked it. If you liked it, please hit the like button below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Subs always helps us out. And if you want to support the channel, you can do so by visiting our Patreon website, or you can donate via PayPal through our website as well. Thank you so much for watching the video again, guys, and I'll see you soon in the next one.